Good afternoon and happy day 22. So following on from the idea of keeping stats on your game, I talked about the importance of keeping a greens in regulation stat. And a really good book, Lowest Score Wins, was released about 4 or 5 years ago. You can buy it on Amazon. It should be on your bookshelf for sure. They coined the term green in regulation is king. Because greens in regulation are a measure of your scoring ability and your scoring potential, because it tells us how good you are, how efficient you are from the tee. Do you hit the ball far enough, and do you control the direction well enough to be able to set up an approach shot that can hit the green on your par fours and your par fives? It also tells us how good your approach shots are, how good you are from the fairway, from the semi, from the rough, of getting that ball onto the green on a par four, on a par five. It also tells us potentially how good you are from your par three approach shots. How many greens in regulation can you hit from that par three tee? It can also tell us how good your game management is. How well are you plotting your way round a golf course to make sure you bank as many greens in regulation as you can, because greens in regulation is king and it's a byproduct of the score that you can potentially shoot. So an equation that I use regularly in my coaching that is from the book is basically the 24 to your par. So let me talk you through this. So if you think of a par of the golf course and add 24 to that. So let's say it's a par 72, add 24, you've then got 96. If after the round you work out how many greens in regulation did you hit, so let's say 10. If you times that by 2, that gives you a figure of 20. Then if you take 20 off the 96, you're left with a figure of 76. So what's that telling us is that a 10 greens in regulation should give you a ballpark score of around 76, plus or minus potentially any 3 putts or any lost balls. And the reason for that is if you hit 10 greens in regulation, in theory you should bank at least 10 pars. At least 10 pars. Then with the idea with the 8 holes that are remaining, you might be able to get up and down 50% of the time for that level of golfer, which then leaves you potentially 4 drop shots on the others, hence the score of 76. As I say, the only time it won't count is if you had penalty shots and you had excessive putts, but actually you could add them to that 76 anyway. So if you shot 80 but hit 10 greens in regulation, that would tell us that potentially your putting was too excessive, you had too many putts, or you lost balls off the tee, or you lost balls going into the green, etc. So it's a really good indicator of how you are as a golfer, what sort of score that you should shoot. So if you wanted to improve on that 76, what do you need to do? You actually then have to hit more greens in regulation. So if you wanted to be a level par shooter or even under, you'd need to be in the figure of around 12 or 13 greens in regulation. Because if you times them by 2 and take that off your 96, you're going to be into the 72, 71, 70 marker. Now don't get me wrong, even with 10 greens in regulation, you could still shoot under par, but you probably would have chipped in a couple of times, you've holed a load of putts. You're never going to be able to sustain that week in, week out. So there will always be an outlier to this rule. But it's a really good benchmark and equation for you to figure out how was your ball striking today, and did you make the most out of your golf round. What it can also tell you is if you've got a particular score in mind that you want to move towards. So let's say you were an 80 or 82 shooter and you wanted to move more towards a 76 shooter. Well, we can probably predict if you're an 80 or an 82 shooter, you're probably only hitting maybe 7 to 8 greens in regulation. Therefore, you need to find a way of hitting 2 to 3 more greens in regulation to be able to jump down to that 76 marker. And this is applicable whether you're an 85 shooter or even a 90 shooter. You've just got to do the maths on the equation. So then it begs the question then is, how can you increase your greens in regulation? So basically you have to become better off the tee. So do you need better directional control or better distance control? Or do you need better game management of getting the ball on the in play? Is that a go-to club, or can you map your way around that golf course? Even to the point where you just avoid the rubbish on one side of the hole, put it down the other side of the hole so you've got a better approach into that green. How can you improve your approach play on your second shots and your par 3 shots? Could it be the fact that you just go into the middle of the green? Or do you need to brush up on your ball striking skills to be able to control the flight of that goal more consistently? So ask yourself those couple of questions to get you thinking, when you get back out onto that golf course or when you get back onto that practice ground, what things could you do to hit more greens in regulation? Is it a strike and swing issue, or is it just a game management issue, or both? But if you want to score better at golf, you've got to hit more greens in regulation ultimately, all other things being equal. But ultimately, you need to be able to hit more greens in regulations if you want your scores to improve consistently. Hope that makes sense. Any questions? Drop me a line. Take care.